I put a duck penetration detail in my drawings, but it was a duck, like not ducked, duck. And so I drew a duck, and I had him through the wall, and I had like the details and everything else of it. And I shit you not,
did you get a planchette comment?
when I sent it off to the plan review, permit review, they sent back comments and they said, how, like one of them was like, how was the duck survive? How do you feed the duck? Then another one was like, you didn't specify what color duck does the caulking that you use, does it color match the ducks? They played along pretty well. It was hilarious. I was like,
did you actually add those like planchette comments and bubble them?
Oh yeah, because I left it on the drawings too. It's just like, what the fuck, we just had fun.
Do you have that detail? I need that detail.
I do. I can find it.
Oh, you have to find that.
Welcome to the Archispeak podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. Each episode, Neil Pan, Cormac Phelan, and I have a casual conversation about all things architecture, and we invite you to listen in as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the blocks of Corbusier's City of Tomorrow more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we stand around the water cooler and talk about why we love our chosen profession. It's time for some Archispeak.
Three, two, one. Welcome to our... Rewind. Welcome to episode 40 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And Evan, we have a few friends of the show. Actually, only a couple, but one got went a little overboard. Who do we have this week?
All right, this week we've got Bueno Box LLC donated $10, and they are from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you, Bueno Box. And our second and final donation comes from Nicholas Renard. He donated $7.13 for the first donation. Nicholas Renard once again donated $7.03 for his second donation.
Oh, careful. Don't say it a third time now.
So thanks, Nick. That was great of you. Really appreciate that.
Don't forget the third one, though. It is $7.17.
Who was that?
I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to say the name.
I'll say it. Nick Renard.
It's showtime.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Three donations, all very odd numbers, and he just kept hitting submit. And so thanks. We appreciate everybody who became a friend of the show. Nick for repeating, and Bueno Box for the first time. If you want to donate to the show and get your name read on the show and a sincere thanks from us, please do so at archispeakpodcast.com/donate. And we will do that. Thanks.
So this week we thought we would, as summer is wrapping up around here, I know my kids go back to school in a couple of weeks. We thought we'd take it a little light for this episode and have some fun and talk a little bit about what we do outside of architecture. And we're going to, what kind of hobbies that we have or things, activities, stuff like that we like to do when we're not in the office, because, none of us work 24/7.
Yeah, I always think it's pretty fascinating when I talk to other people in the office or online. It's really a diverse crowd.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, so that's always fun. All right, Neil, since you brought this up, you get to go first.
Oh, I get to go first?
Yeah.
Well, since Cormac mentioned it today, and he and I both kind of share this hobby, is...
running?
No, running. Oh, please. Cormac runs? Only if zombies are chasing him.
He's not here to defend himself, I guess.
No.
Cormac does know how to use a pen as a weapon.
I don't know if that qualifies as a hobby, though. But Cormac and I have this hobby that we partake in every Wednesday. And that is we enjoy hitting our local comic book store and picking up some comics to read. And I know for myself, I've been doing it and reading comics and collecting since I was a little kid. I think one of my grandfathers kind of gave me some old Superman comics or something, and when I was a pretty young kid, and it was just something I enjoyed. I didn't really necessarily enjoy reading, but it got me into reading, and I don't know. I just kind of always have liked it, and to be honest with you, with the Guardians of the Galaxy movie just coming out, it's like the golden age for people that grew up reading comics, because now not only do we get to see these incredible stories that we've been reading for, at least for me, virtually all my life, but now we get to see them on the big screen and done right. The effects are there that we can really enjoy these stories, and hopefully they're good movies. And I mean, this is just magical, because when I was growing up, we kept hearing, oh yeah, they're going to do a Spider-Man movie, or they're going to do this. And then really the technology wasn't there, as we could see by, the Hulk TV show that was on. And I know they did a Spider-Man TV movie or something in the late 70s. It was just horrible stuff.
I can't believe you're dissing on Lou Ferrigno.
No, I've met Lou Ferrigno. I'm not going to diss on him.
Oh, name dropping now. I hear you.
But the show, it's they, anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but it's just amazing what they can do nowadays. And they can create these great movies and bring, something that has been a hobby of mine all my life. I mean, I built a section, half of my closet is just to store my comic books. I have that many.
Sounds like a fire hazard.
Yeah, it probably would. It probably burn down the house. I should have reinforced the floor where all these things are sitting.
Yeah, it's like 3,000 pounds.
That's a good, somebody needs to do that math for me. How much a comic book weighs? I'll, hit me up on Twitter. I'll tell you how many comics I have.
Well,
you can do the math for me.
Actually, just make it easier on you. Just, what's the weight of, one
42
long box.
Long boxes times dust accumulation of 14 years.
And then they could tell you the point load of those particular long boxes.
But it's not a point load, it's a distributed load.
Okay, so take the square footage of the area.
Based off of how you stack them.
Okay. All right. If you want to go into this now, I don't have long and short boxes. I bought these special boxes. And I cannot remember the name of them now, but they're a special box that is built with a cardboard frame. And then the box slides in and out of the frame. And the reason I have these is because so you can stack them and yet still be able to open the box on the bottom. Because the traditional boxes, right? I mean, the long or short boxes, they have a lid. And as soon as you start stacking boxes on top of them, in order to get to the bottom box, you got to unstack it.
I know this was a good idea at the time, Neil, but you haven't opened those boxes and gone back through them, right?
You know what? Actually, no, not true. Because as I purchase new comics, I file them. I put them away, and so I'm always going in and filing, comics in the right spots, and they're all in alphabetical order.
This is Neil's Library of Congress.
That was the thing, Evan. I was going to ask, let's find out how far his insanity goes.
Sure, go.
Do you have a card catalog system? Do you have the
frickin' era do you live
system?
in, man?
These are
this is a computer
you use
age.
like Delicious Monster or what?
No, I
Cool.
use a special software called Comic Base, and I've been using it for a number of years. In fact, they were once Mac only. I don't know if they were. I think it was Mac and PC. Yeah, they were using FileMaker as their engine, and a number of years ago they switched to a different database engine, and they went PC exclusive. And it is literally probably about the sole reason that I have Parallels Desktop and run a piece. Every week or two, I'll open up Comic Base in Windows in order to update my database.
That is dedication.
All right,
because everybody should know how much Neil curses the Windows.
Oh,
I mean, this is a big deal, what I'm hearing
It
right
is
now.
a huge deal. Yeah. I mean, it's like this little black hole on my computer.
Yeah. You can't get that data and put it somewhere else.
Yeah. I've been politicking the guy who runs the Comic Week software. I'm like, oh, come on, man. You gotta get back native on the Mac somehow.
Yeah, you got to be able to, type these things in on your phone and they just go in the database.
Oh, yeah, it would be nice. It'd be nice. But, so occasionally I have to launch into Windows and curse it every time. But
all right, so Cormac the Crazy goes pretty deep.
It does, goes pretty deep. So, but Cormac's right there with me. He's there. He's posting, he's hitting his Annapolis comic book shop every Wednesday.
I have a total of, and here's where my shame in comparison to you lies. I have about 2.5 long boxes worth of comics, and I was given one of them.
Wow.
So you're just a rookie.
He's
my
been
shame
lying to you all these years.
Well, honestly, when I read comics in my local library. So I didn't take them home. I just...
that sounds like a really smart way to do it.
I actually could... in fact, actually, my wife, she just... she was reading something online about one of the graphic novels that are going to be coming to... they're making a TV series out of it called Preacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so she went and she checked out, all of the graphic novels from the local library and read them all, and then returned them.
Nice.
So we don't have to. Yeah. We don't have to build a wing on our house.
We always have like 30 books from the library hanging out here. Same thing.
I mean, we're literally one block. In fact, actually, there's a cut through between the blocks. So I would probably say that we're closer to, like, say, 1,000 feet from our door to the door of the public library. So it makes it really easy, and my sons love to go there. And, my daughter's been now, she has her own library card as well. So,
okay, so Cormac, is it Capital Comics or Third Eye Comics in Annapolis? It's Capital, isn't it?
I actually go to both. Actually, I go to 3 shops. I go to my local Bethesda shop.
You just read them right there on the rack and then set them down and walk out without buying anything?
No. Dude,
no,
it's not a library.
No. I don't have a pull box, so I just go in there and get either...
And what is a pull box for those that don't know?
That is for people like Neil, and don't tell me you don't have one.
I do.
So then you, who has one, go ahead and tell everybody.
What a pull box is nothing more than essentially you tell your local comic shop owner what books what titles you want, and they pull them for you as they come in, and then they hold them off to the side, and then they keep them so that when you come in,
so you get first
dibs. Yeah, you don't have to worry about your books being sold out. It's really good. And my local shop, Heroes and Villains Comics in Pleasanton, we'll have a link in the show notes for you. They give, if you have a certain number that you collect, then you get a discount. You get free bag and board, and you get a little bit higher discount if you collect a few more. So
this is not Archispeak. This is Comic Speak.
This is Comic Speak. Yes,
clearly, right now it is.
All right, well,
bag them and board them and long box them and store them. All right, so. What about Comixology? What about reading these things on the iPad?
You know what? I'm still old school. I like to go to my comic book store and buy my books.
Do you really want
just to keep going?
Yeah.
I was going to say,
I'm just wondering.
Do you want this to be a show all about comics?
Yeah, no, not really.
But a show. I was going to say, because then you start asking that question, and then we have to go through the philosophy of the. The paper in hand versus...
No, we don't have to go that far. But
right, another time.
I know.
Another time.
A good After Dark episode there.
But I don't typically read my comics on my iPad, But the one cool thing is that, and Marvel does this and DC really doesn't. Marvel includes a code for a free digital download in many of their books. And there's no extra charge for it. DC has a few extra books, but they charge $1 more to get the digital combo pack, they call it. And so what was cool is recently when I was on vacation, I didn't take any comics with me to read, but because I log in several of the Marvel books that I had purchased that I hadn't yet read, I was able on the Comixology app to just go, okay, yeah, give me, just download these 5-6 books or whatever. And then I could read them while I was on vacation. And then I just deleted them and I still have the paper copy at home. But, so I mean, that's kind of how I've used Comixology and reading comics on the iPad before.
Cool. All right.
So that's
what he says.
I mean, that's like a twofer here. I mean, we've got, Cormac's hobby, my hobby kind of in one. So you got two shots there.
Yeah, you just outed Cormac. He wasn't going to say anything about comics.
I didn't have to out him. I mean, he's always tweeting that he's at his local comic book shop on Wednesdays. So everybody knows.
Hell, actually, so when we were in Chicago on vacation, we were looking to find an ice cream shop because it was hot and everybody was craving ice cream. And we saw a comic book shop. Completely forgot about the ice cream, and the whole family went into the comic book shop.
Excellent.
So it was a great little comic book shop. Not really that big, but it was one block off of Michigan Avenue in Millennium Park. And I kept calling it Millennial Park.
That was last week's episode.
Because I had that whole episode still stuck in my head. But it was a good shop. And then when we got back to Detroit, in the area that we were staying at in the suburbs of Detroit, and we went to that shop as well. It seems like we go there, at least 4 times a year that they at least still recognize us. So they're like, hey, you're back in town. And,
nice.
Thanks for coming by. The thing about these, direct to market shops, which is what they really are, is that, the only way, sure, you're going to have your diehard comic book nerds and stuff like that, but they're going to have things that are related to the movies and stuff. And it's just kind of good to support your local shops, regardless of what they are, biking, whatever. It's always good. And none of these, rarely if ever, there's no real chain. It's just a local shop, a local guy. And that's actually one of the reasons why I like them. So yeah, and so I go to Big Planet Comics, Third Eye Comics, which to me, and no offense to the other guys, is hands down the best one because it's twice the shop, and these guys know anything and everything that you could possibly imagine. So I really, really good shops.
Nice. All right, I guess I should talk about something.
Thanks, Neil.
Evan, save us.
Evan?
Save our listeners.
Exactly.
Okay, for those that haven't tuned out yet,
Hobbies.
Bring it back into another hobby that is maybe not quite so nerdy.
Kind of put everything on hold, taking my exams the last year, but I would say my biggest hobby has got to be travel and then doing adventure stuff with our kids. Like just figuring out places to go, experiences to have. We'd rather spend money on experiences than things. So we get out. We went to Yellowstone, which we talked about in our vacation episode. But I got a trip coming up with a couple guys from the office. A guy from, David Doucette, who runs Architect Exam Prep, who we have sponsoring some of our stuff on the site. He and I and a couple other guys are going to Zion in October, and we're going to go canyoneering. So getting out,
cool.
Doing slot canyons, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty phenomenal stuff. I mean, you get to see parts of the world that nobody really gets to see. So I love doing that kind of stuff. So if you Google Zion slot canyoning, you'll get a good idea of what what happens there. It's pretty amazing because I've been to Zion many, many times, and I've only been there canyoneering once, maybe, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago. And you walk out of a canyon with a harness and ropes and a full wetsuit, and it's 120 degrees outside. And people are like, look at you a little bit funny. They're like, where'd you just come from? And so, you spend 8 hours going through these canyons, and you're jumping off cliffs into 40-degree water and rappelling down 300-foot waterfalls, and you get down to the bottom, and you walk out where everybody else is, and you look a little different than they do. So that's just kind of the latest adventure that I'm getting ready to go on. It's pretty cool stuff. So I don't know, does that work?
Make it back, okay?
Yeah. They say I did not watch that movie 127 hours, but that's what it is from what I've heard. Yeah. I couldn't watch it.
So
if by chance
if the editing quality goes down on future podcasts, you'll know why, because Evan is either no longer with us.
We'll do a tutorial before.
Yeah. Make sure we know how to do this first, Evan. we can't lose you, man.
Hey, but just do me a favor. Take a sharp knife.
I cut it clean off.
Don't be the guy who has to sit there with a little small pocket knife and have to gnaw his own arm off.
What's funny is, like, we
go clean cut.
We did some canyoneering here locally a couple weeks ago, and all these guys who I was with, I noticed they all had these pocket knives strapped right to their backpack, like right there, really accessible. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I wonder why they have that. But now that you say it, I wonder if it's
probably. And don't forget your video camera.
Yeah, I could get the GoPro going the whole time, right? Yeah, so that's what I like to do. I like to get outside. I sit behind a computer enough. I sit at home enough. I don't want to get out, get some fresh air, get some nature. And then if I can, I like to photograph it as well. So that's a big, huge hobby of mine. But maybe you can talk about that when I go next here.
Well, talk about it now, because honestly, that's one of my things as well. But as I sit here and stare at my spherical lens as it sits lonely and starting to collect dust on my desk, because I haven't pulled my cameras out in a long time. I know you and I love taking photos, and I've actually been impressed, honestly, and this sounds sacrilegious to all of the people who are more pro. I mean, I only have a Nikon D300, but I love taking photographs with my iPhone 5.
Yeah.
I am thoroughly impressed. I mean, you really can't get big, huge, raw images out of it. They don't take up, tens and tens of gigs or megabytes of space per. But I mean,
I think you're looking for gigabytes is the right word.
Gigabytes?
Yeah, gigabytes.
Well,
no, they say the best camera is the one you got with you.
Exactly. And I've got so many shots. We just got off. Literally, I don't know. What is it? About 5 hours ago, we got back for our vacation, and one of our big stops was in Chicago, and I had both of my phones. I have an office phone and a personal phone, and I purposely took both of them fully charged, knowing that they were both going to be dead by the time I got back. And 7 hours of walking around the city, I think I had 9% on one and 19 on the other, because I was just snapping away shot after shot after shot. Now, not every one of them is going to be, that best one. I remember my first photography class. My professor's like, if you've got a roll of 36 and you can get one shot that you
really,
like,
right,
then you've done a good job. He goes, because not all the time are you going to get that perfect shot. So,
well, isn't it great nowadays that we have that ability? I mean, you have two iPhones.
Oh, yeah.
you probably took, upwards of 1,000, excuse me, maybe 2,000 photos that day. I mean,
oh yeah.
If you divide that by 36, I mean, how many shots could you have gotten? I mean, I'm so jealous of the abilities that we have today, from when I lived in Europe for a year, my last year at Cal Poly. I lived in Florence, Italy, and I took maybe 2,000 slides that year, which was a whole lot of rolls of film. But my gosh, if I had something like an iPhone with me, I would have been taking 1,000 photos or 2,000 photos a day. I mean, on when we took some of our trips, I mean, it was just phenomenal. It would have been so fantastic. So we're so lucky, and I mean, everybody that is growing up with these things now, like you said, Evan, the best phone that you have is the one with you, and quite honestly, I've never had a big fancy, camera, and I'm not that into photography, but I love to take photographs. And, I mean, quite honestly, my iPhone has completely replaced my point and shoot camera.
Yeah. Like with things like Instagram, where they just solve the problem of sharing photos.
Yes.
And when you have something that's connected all the time, it's really fun. I think for a long time, Instagram was my guilty pleasure, just to flip that open and scroll through some amazing photographs. And there are some serious photographers on there. I really enjoy it a lot.
Now, I don't necessarily believe, as much as I love, I'd probably say 50% of the people that I follow on Instagram are photographers. The other 50% are, like sketch artists, comic book artists, and things like that. Most of the time, like in their bio, they'll say, shots only taken by iPhone 5. I'm like, yeah, sorry. No, I don't think so. I mean, fantastic shot, but the contrast and everything else,
they've been edited on the phone.
Well, see, that's the thing that I kind of, doesn't that sort of defeat the purpose of Instagram?
No, I mean,
there's
all kinds of
why?
editing.
Because Instagram has the built-in filters.
Built-in filters. They now have editing tools in there that you can, do things with. I mean, that's why a lot of people, if you post something on Instagram and it looks really great and you didn't use any filters, it's like you have to put a little hashtag after it, like no filters.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
no
I
filters.
didn't cheat.
Yeah.
This is a really cool photo.
What is, one of the things that I've noticed that now, I had the idea of when I was in the Army and I was stationed in Germany, I knew I was going to architecture school. And so I took pictures of buildings. But they weren't they were just pictures of buildings. I would take the skewed shot looking up at a spire or something like that. But they weren't that good. Have you guys noticed, Evan, have you noticed that your maybe not necessarily your technical skills, but your sensibility of framing the shot and all of that other stuff, or at least being able to recognize what's a good shot versus just a shot?
I try to really. I have two types of photos that I put up. I put stuff that I really like, and then I put stuff that I'm just kind of sharing, my life. And so I kind of fall into those two categories. But yeah, I kind of only put up what I think are actually really good shots. Right. I feel like, this kind of goes for photography in general. The more shots you take, the better you get. And so that's another thing that these devices have really helped with. And digital photography in general is that you're not afraid to fill up the 36 shots anymore, right? You're going to take thousands of shots and you're going to weed it out. And you might get 5 or 10 great shots out of that 1,000. But those are the ones that you're going to put up and share and let everybody see, and not keep them in a shoebox in the closet either.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, the photography thing to me it's been a great artistic kind of way for me to branch out. And we do it all the time when we're working on architecture. We're kind of, working on these models, whether they're physical or digital, and we're spinning them around and we're changing our point of view. And you do start to think like a photographer. I know, like when we decide to do renderings of our projects, we're really thinking about composition and light and mood. Absolutely. And, when I was teaching, I was always talking to my students about creating a mood. When it's finally time to actually do renderings, you don't just render the building. You actually have to create and tell some kind of a story. You want to create some kind of a mood. And I feel like photography really helps develop those skills. And it is really all about the light. That's something that I heard quite a while back. And the more pictures I make, the more I realize that it is all about the light. And so I think you really can get phenomenal photographs with that tiny little lens on the back of your phone if the lighting is great. So, what I'll do too is I'll post a couple links in the show notes to our Instagram accounts, and on my website I've got a pretty good gallery of photos too that I've made. So I'll put that in there as well.
Well, obviously you'll see the other hobby of mine, which is sketching on mine. Since
go ahead,
9/10 of my Instagram is shots of my sketches. So when we do post that, you'll and obviously if anybody's listened to this show before, you guys know how much I'm into sketching. Rarely is it sketching of architectural items. It's more just of crazy, weird, whacked out kind of fun stuff. Just, it's I use it as a escape from sometimes the monotony or the minutia of the profession, and sometimes I just kind of just use them just to kind of have fun. Not to say that architecture is not fun, but sometimes actually I was listening to I've told both my wife and my oldest son, who's been reading all sorts of pretty interesting books, so I knew that he'd be able to handle, understand, and is mature enough to understand a little, or be able to understand and not take to heart some of the gore that's in this particular book. So we go to Chicago on our trip, and Devil in the White City, I kept talking to them about certain things in the book and stuff like that as they're walking. And I told them, well, you guys know that I've got it on audiobook as well. And so the whole trip back, because we went from Chicago back to Detroit to visit a little bit more family members, and then, on back to Maryland. And it's a almost 15-hour audiobook, and we haven't finished it yet, but we were listening to it. And what was interesting is that even the great architects that we learned about, McKim, Burnham, Olmsted, all of these people, Root, all of them in this book, because this is a work of nonfiction, and the way that the author painted a picture is just how tiresome architecture, the profession of architecture, can be. Not that they obviously didn't love it, but it just kind of, it's something that kind of, wears your batteries out, which is kind of what we're talking about this podcast for. You do need to kind of take a break and get away from it every so often. So they had their drinking and everything else, but it was kind of funny is because they were talking about it, and half these architects that they were talking about, they were just dropping dead. I'm like, holy crap. Okay, yeah, we've already talked about that particular episode, but now I have a bigger list of architects who kind of died on the job, one way or the other. I mean, Root died from pneumonia because after a meeting, he, was rushed home. He did later, they found out that he had cancer, but he didn't die of the cancer. He died of pneumonia because, he was rushing to get home after a meeting and didn't wear a jacket in the bitter cold of Chicago and caught pneumonia. So it's just like, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Architects don't retire. They just die. So you need a hobby to bring it back to what we're talking about.
All right. Yeah, that's a good point. So, Neil, what do you do to recharge your batteries? What hobby do you have?
I don't know about recharging my batteries, but another one that I've been doing for the past few years now is I tend to run a lot.
From who?
Yeah, from Cormac throwing his knives at me, right? No, I've always run a little bit, just kind of stay in shape and stuff like that. But a few years ago, my wife ran some 5Ks, and she was like, come on out, and you should do it too. All right, fine. So I ran a couple of 5Ks, and then I did a 10K, and then I was like, well,
you went crazy.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Just a little more than 6 miles. So.
No, you went crazy.
Oh, I went, yeah. Okay, yeah, I went a little. Well, no, I didn't. It didn't start out that way, right? I mean, I just thought, well, what's the next challenge? Okay, well, I did a 10K, and I could either run another 10K or run some more 10Ks and try to get faster. But I was like, well, what do you do after a 10K, right? I mean, what's the next distance? Well, that's a half marathon. Wow. I mean, that sounded like insurmountable at the time. And I thought it was back almost 2 years ago this week, actually. I signed up for a training class, and we spent, 8 or 10 or 12 weeks, and we, prepared for a half marathon, and I ran a half marathon, and I thought, wow, that was really great, and then after that, I was like, well, I guess, what's the next thing, right? I was like, well, the next thing's a full marathon, and that sounded just absolutely insane. But I figured, well, yeah, maybe I'll try it. So I did. I signed up, I guess it was a year and a half ago for my first marathon, and prepared for it. And, you put in the time, and you do what you have to do. And I ran it, and it was great. It was like, what's the next mountain to climb? What's the next challenge, I guess. And so I did that. And afterwards, I just kept running because I didn't want to lose it. You build up a lot of momentum and just a lot of running ability. And so I just kept running. And one of the things that helps me kind of keep me on track is I joined the running club that was part of the group that, got me doing this or helped me do my training. But then I also use, going back to the iPhone, the Nike Plus app on that, and then another running app from time to time. But I really focus on the Nike Plus running app, and that just keeps track of all of my running, and I guess that it just once you get started, it's hard to stop, and then you kind of get challenged by people people in the running club, and it's like there's always faster people out there. So as soon as you think you're doing pretty good, you're like, yeah, I'm not that good, Yeah. I mean, I have a goal this year to essentially run 100 miles a month and hit 1,200 for the year. And, that'd be a good accomplishment for me. I came close last year, but I had a back injury that took me out for about 5-6 weeks, and I missed that goal last year. But I mean, there's a person in our running club, and she's going for 2,400 miles this year. I mean, 200 a month. So it's like, as soon as I think I'm doing pretty good, there's somebody out there that's just blowing me away. So, but that's a hobby.
There's an app I've seen called Strava,
yes,
that a lot of mountain bikers use, and it I think what it does is it kind of breeds competitiveness between you and your buddies or other people who are doing the same trails that you are. Yeah. It
totally does, and yeah. So in fact, I was looking at mine today. I was like, I want to be number one on the list. It's like, damn it.
You got to be on the leaderboard.
Yeah, I'm on the leaderboard. It's like, I want to be number one, and so it kind of pushes you. But what's good about it is that as much as running as I do, 100 miles a month, it's about 25 miles a week. So, there's a lot of time that you spend doing that, and it's kind of peaceful. Sometimes if I'm out by myself, it's peaceful. You're out running early in the morning, and you can kind of think about, what am I doing? What projects am I working on? What design problems do I have? And, pretty soon it's like, wow, an hour goes by and you've run 8 miles. And so, it's kind of a nice distraction. And quite honestly, since, you do kind of get into that competitiveness and you want to keep, pushing and doing more, it allows you to, or I should say it forces you to do that, because it's like, oh my gosh, well, 25 miles is a lot of miles. I can't run that in one day. So it's like, okay, well, it's Thursday. Oh no, I haven't run it all this week. So it's like, well, in order to hit that 25 miles, I better start doing, 6 or 8 miles a day, to hit that. And what's great about it is that it literally forces me to say, okay, when I get up this morning, I'm just going to be an hour late into the office, or an hour late starting this morning, because I have to do this. Because you
can't break the chain, right?
It's so easy for us. How many of us every single day, it's like, I really should do this, right? But I got to get into the office. I got to get this done.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me studying for my exams. I get up every day, no matter what, because as soon as you don't do it, man, that next day, it's even easier not to do it again. Exactly. So if you're, so that's really what the hobby of running for me is done, is that it keeps me, focused, and, helps me stay in shape a little bit. And then it forces you to take a break. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I get out on my mountain bike and I go up, we have a lot of great trails here. And man, that place out there is my sanctuary.
Yeah.
That's like clear thinking, fresh air, get your heart working, and it's like a total escape for me. And for me, like, I love the sound of rubber tires on a dirt road or a trail. And as soon as I hear that, it's like I'm just disconnected from the urban suburban setting. It's really soothing to me. And when I don't do it, because there was a few months this past, it's been hot. It's been really hot here in Southern California. And there was a few months where I just wasn't riding because I was studying or whatever. Man, I missed it. And my body has paid for that because I didn't go for a while. So now I'm getting back into it again. And it's like what you're saying. It's like you want to get out there, you want to hit a certain goal, but really, like, it's a total getaway. It's a total release. You can work out your frustrations. There's definitely some mind chatter that's going on while you're out there, but I feel like when my legs are moving, my mind is working.
Yeah.
And it's really beneficial to me to, like, work things out while I'm by myself on the trail. I
think, when I'm training for an actual race, or like last year, after running my second marathon, I was like, what's the next challenge? Well, let me try a triathlon, a sprint triathlon. And I ended up doing 4 of those over the summer last year. And what was interesting about that is you're not just running. You've got to train for 3 different sports, swimming and biking and running. And what was great about it was kind of what we're talking about, is that with that training schedule, you can't get off of that training schedule. If you miss a day of training in one thing or another, it's like, okay, well, how do I, A, make that up? But B, it's like, no, I have to leave the office today and I have to go swim tonight. There's just no option. And I tell you, it's very therapeutic, because it forces you to get out of that office. It forces you to stop thinking about that office stuff. Although, like what I said, sometimes I'm off for a long run, 10 or 12 miles or something, you can start, just kind of think about it a little bit. Like you said, your mind's working, right? But it's also that distraction. You're getting outside, you're getting some fresh air. I run around locally here. I get to see the vines and the vinery, and just it's just beautiful.
It's terrain. Cool to, like, do the same, you every once in a while you're doing the same loops, right, and you notice different things, but then you notice how things develop.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty fun part
Absolutely,
of it.
Yeah, because in running, at least, and probably biking, I see far more bikes in the spring.
I'm going slower than you.
Well, no, but I was going to go with, during the spring and summer, I see a lot more bikes. But I mean, we run all winter long, rain or shine. And so you don't see as many bikes in the winter.
No,
but,
you don't.
But you do. You totally get to see the change in the just your environment. And it's a lot of fun. We're not always running in towns. We're running on trails sometimes, and out through the vineyards and stuff like that around here. So it's great fun. It's also a way that I've met a lot of people outside of architecture. Because architecture, we tend to focus so much on work, and we get this little bubble of people that we know, right? I mean, we all have our friends that are like architecture friends. We get together with them on weekends and we talk architecture. It's like we never let go of it.
That's a pretty big bubble when you get Twitter involved too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But then, like the people I run with, none of them are architects. They all do different things. And so they're bringing different experiences to my experience that I can use when I sit down to design for a client.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful way to get your mind off things and
get a bigger perspective. Yeah.
Get a bigger perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
cool.
That's a couple of them there. I think we both got a little bit in there on that one.
All right.
So Cormac, you've been quiet. We've been talking about sports, but we really haven't been talking about sports, because then if we were really talking about sports, Evan would be very quiet right now.
Go sports.
Go sports.
Go sports. Team score. Yeah.
Football started this week. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't run anymore, only because of damaged knees and all that other stuff from
You're not in the Army anymore.
Army. Well, no, I just
It did its thing to you.
Just a few years ago, when I used to run 8 miles a day, every day, all the time, sometimes upward to 16 miles, depending on how much I would. But I got pneumonia, really kind of sort of stopped running. But then that layoff kind of pointed out some other problems that I had, and these were one of them. So I hike. I hike a lot, actually. I grab my, Evan's talking about, the sound of, the rubber hitting the road or the rubber hitting the trail, and, it's magic. It's a teleportation to him. Mine is the click of my walking stick that I've had for, I don't know, going on almost, I bought it when I was 18.
Oh my God, that thing's ancient.
It is. Bought the first thing, that was actually the very first thing that I ever bought in Germany was a walking stick, because I joined a kind of like this Volksmarch.
It's actually
kind of
it's called a cane.
Yeah, no, now it's called a cane.
Not yet. No, I however, when I do get to the point of having a walker, it's going to be a nice hand-carved wood.
You mean when?
Evan, it's what he uses to yell at the kids to get off his lawn.
I can see it now.
I'm not in Neil's world yet. But
we don't have lawns here. We're in the middle of a drought.
You had actually, Neil, the way that you had phrased the question to Evan was, what do you do to recharge, or maybe it was vice versa.
Yes.
Recharge your batteries. And let me ask this, if you guys do what I do, which I do often, and that's I go visit architecture, other people's architecture. I go look at buildings, old buildings, historic buildings, new buildings. I kind of try to, I don't sit and dwell on the worries of my own stuff, and I just detach myself from, being a architectural professional, and just try to put all that stuff behind me and actually just be a person, an experience, as a part of, that experience of what that architect was trying to do, and just go and visit other buildings. I had a question from a couple of people, actually, while I was on vacation, and I was kind of Instagramming photos of, like the Milwaukee Museum of Art and some of the other things that I saw in Chicago, and they were like, how can you, how do you do it? How do you go on vacation and go and visit architecture with your kids? Other than the obvious answer is they don't really have much of a choice. Really, what we do is we try to integrate the fun that I have of going to see some of these buildings with trying to find out some fun things that we can do with them while we're there, and then make it up to them and go do something else and have fun with them. But do you guys do that? Do you guys try to get away from architecture by going to visit architecture?
Yeah. I'm going to do that next weekend, going down to La Jolla, San Diego area. I'm going to do a little architecture tour down there and visit the Salk again and get up into the campus at San Diego. And
that's a bucket list for me as the Salk.
Yeah, I need to get online and see if I think they have Sunday morning tours. But hey, if we got any people who know any inside info on the Salk, I'll take it. But yeah, totally do that. I mean, that's something that my wife and I were doing every other weekend. We were going into LA just to see architecture. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people working in the industry who are doing a disservice to themselves, not getting out and seeing other people's work and experiencing it.
Absolutely.
That's a huge part of, and I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I wish more people did that and get out of their element. We all get stuck kind of designing things with the details we already know, and I feel like that's a real way to just up your game and see how other people did things, whether they're better or worse or just different. I feel like that's a huge, huge deal to just get that other perspective on architecture.
Well, I was joking with a friend of mine at work. I had texted him the picture that I took of the lobby of, and I actually want to put it when we post our show notes. I'll post that picture of the lobby space for the Milwaukee Art Museum, and I was just like, oh, how would this feel for this one particular project that I'm working on right now? And he goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure they've got the budget for that, knowing that we currently are trying to cut the budget. But we were joking about it, and I was thinking to myself, we may not be able to do a school project because obviously, they're not going to allow us to kind of frivolously spend that kind of money on a school project. But we can capture a mood. We can capture the way that the sun kind of moves across that particular space. Very, it may not be the exact way that particular building does, but we can create those moods. We can kind of set those things, and to see how. And the thing that I like is to see how other people have, approached it. I was texting you guys that I was in Oak Park, and for the longest time, and I don't know if you guys were like this, but in architecture school, I didn't like Frank Lloyd Wright. We were almost trained to hate him, and I don't really know why. Because I guess it's the older I get, the more I see his work, the more I experience things. I have got a huge appreciation for everything that he's done. In just one block in Oak Park, there are so many different styles of Wright in such a short span of space. He's done these gabled roofs that are so adorned with ornamentation, because you can tell that this was one of his first buildings that actually wasn't his first. It was a building or a house that he did while he was still employed by Louis Sullivan, to then when he was on his own, to then his own house and the experimentation that he did on his own house with different styles and ornamentation or lack thereof, or this or that or the other. And this guy was always learning. He was always visiting other places and looking at how they did it. And so, as you said, Evan, architects who don't go and visit other architects' work and just kind of experience the place and gain either a respect, or maybe you don't like it, and maybe the reason why you don't like it are some of the things that you will promise yourself you'll never do, but you've learned from that building. And so I do that often.
Yep, that's an awesome one.
That's one that, like I said, we drag our kids to it often. Just an example, my oldest son, when he was I don't know, third grade or something like that, they in our class he was learning about I'm forgetting his Alexander Calder. And they were learning about, the artwork of Alexander Calder. And there's one of his big mobiles is in the National Gallery of Art in DC. So I took my son to go see it rather than just looking at it in a book. I wanted him to go and see the piece. And we sat there, and rather than talking about just the piece, we talked about how the piece was displayed, the space, how it interacted with the space, how the people in the space interacted with the piece of art, how the light worked, and all this other stuff. And so we kind of turned it into not just art appreciation, but architecture appreciation, a little bit of sociology, and people watching and stuff. So it was kind of fun, and he wasn't bored by that. He actually found it very interesting to look at it as just, we're not just looking at the piece of art, we're looking at how that piece of art works within the the confines of where it's at.
Yeah, very cool.
Boring.
Well, it's all part of, the different hobbies, right? The different things we do outside of architecture.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of that, creating those experiences. I mean, learning in a different way outside of the book.
Well, what was interesting about it is because, we've had those early experiences in things that we were talking about as we were walking around Oak Park. My other two kids were kind of hanging back with their mom, and I was walking with my oldest, and the questions that he was asking me about the buildings, about the material, about the design, when do you think he did this, and all of these other things. I mean, it was just amazing the questions that he was asking, which clearly indicated to me that he wasn't bored. He was just, that he was actually engaged and interested in this stuff, and it was purely by accident that he's, I'm not going to say that he's interested in architecture, but he's at least, we make it where, outings like that are fun.
Yeah. Well, you better start getting him watching lawyer shows or doctor shows, because you don't want him to be an architect, do you?
Oh, he doesn't. He doesn't want to be an architect. Right.
That's good. I feel better now.
He wants to be something more profitable. A writer.
A writer? Oh no. Oh, that's a whole nother show.
Oh yeah. What
there are rich people in every industry.
Yes, there are. That's true. And
he did proclaim that he wants to be the next Stephen King.
Oh, that's cool.
It's good to have goals.
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
Any more, or are we done?
I got one more.
Okay.
Which is music. I don't know how many of our listeners know, but the music at the end of the show is from a band that I was in. That's why we get such a good deal on it.
Music at the top of the show, too.
That's right. That's true. So, yeah, music is kind of, again, one of those other alternative creative outlets, and I feel like, I'm sure that we probably have listeners who are also musicians, and I work with a few guys who are always noodling on the guitar, piano, or whatever, and I just feel like it's one of those things that is a lot like designing, except you're doing it in a completely different way. Especially if you're in a band and you're working with other people, it's a lot like working with other architects. Yes, it's just as hard to actually decide what you're going to do, and you fight about stuff, and you have to defend things, and it's funny how similar it is, but at the same time, it's a completely different outcome, and it's really rewarding. I feel like when you, because obviously the quote unquote product is so much different, right? It's a 3 to 5 minute song versus a multi-year long building project. But a lot of those songs can take that long to actually create. And they are really hard work. And then once you kind of figure out how the song's going to work, and then you go into recording and things change, and then you mix it, and then you master it, and you put it on a back in when we did it, they went on to CDs and then digital. And so it's kind of cool to hear your stuff played on the radio, to make it public. Kind of like when a building gets built, it's public. It's part of the public domain, I guess. And it's really exciting and thrilling and interesting. And then it's also one of those things where it's definitely nowhere near as permanent as architecture, right? So, I mean, while there are definitely music and songs and bands who are extremely permanent, there are others who are not, and it's more like a magazine or a website or a blog where you kind of skim through things and then you forget about them the next day. So I find it depending on how good the outcome is, it can fall into any one of those categories. And so it's completely different creatively than architecture, but it's still extremely rewarding. And I feel like if I wasn't doing architecture, I'd probably be doing that instead. It just has a very powerful impact on me and the way that I work creatively. So I'd be interested to hear if there's other people who are listeners who are doing music or have done music in the past. And if you have, send us some links so we can hear it, because we can talk about it. That'd be fun.
I've actually been really surprised at architects that I've met, around the DC area, and how they've got similar interests of music things going on. A good friend of mine that works at ZGF, he is he's in a band, and it's just like, wow, it's how many, there are several people in our office that they're musicians, they teach guitar and stuff like that, and are just, they just do a lot of a lot with music. And I think that you're right, it kind of helps with their creative process, because as much as a lot of people think that music's more free flowing, no, music's got rules and stuff just as much. And there's there's systems to it, and you got to learn the how to build on top of everything. And if it's not the the way that you were just talking about your music, it sounded like you could have come into that conversation and you could have been talking about architecture, because it's the same thing. It's
funny because when if I ever have a brain dead moment and I want to go just sit down in front of Netflix, I usually go through the documentary section, and I'm either going to watch an architectural documentary or a music documentary.
Yeah.
There's so many good flicks on there about a band or about I watched this one the other night called 20 Feet from Stardom. I think that's what it was called, about backup singers. And it's amazing. I mean, it's a really well done documentary. It's got the Rolling Stones, and it's got the Police, and it's got Stevie Wonder, and it's got all these, famous background singers you've never heard of, right? And it's a lot like architecture, where there's people who work on our projects, me included, where it's like somebody else. I went to a ribbon cutting ceremony for one of the projects that I had designed, and not once did they mention the architect, right? Not once. And that's what it was like with watching this with the background singers. It was the same, very similar situation, where it's like they really made that record. They made it what it was at that time, and they are not the ones who are credited for it. But I thought that was kind of a funny parallel.
I want to have that conversation later on, but I was just having that exact conversation with some school board, some people who work for the school board that are in the Department of Construction. And we're getting ready to do the dedication for this building that I've been working on for the past 5 years. And, I'm like, well, I'll just stand in the back like I always do, and you guys go through and pat everybody on the back, and you'll thank all of the people that you need to thank, and never once will we ever be mentioned.
Yeah.
We'll walk through the building anonymously, knowing that this was just as much our hard labor as it was your money.
Yep.
But, so anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Different time.
All right. Well, now everybody knows us a little bit better.
Yes, maybe a little too much.
A little too much.
Well,
and Evan and I will later on, you and I will talk about our love of rebuilding old cars.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even. Yeah,
there's
I
too
never
many.
rebuilt one, but I had an old car.
Oh,
I have too many hobbies. Yeah.
Well, we want to know what your hobbies are.
Yeah.
Our listeners' hobbies. So, go to our website and let us know. Put some comments up there.
That's right.
All right. So we ready to wrap it up, guys?
Let's wrap it.
We are.
All right. Everybody remember to stay subscribed, and thanks for listening.
All right. See you next time.
See ya. Cormac, you going to say goodbye?
Cormac forgot to say goodbye.
Yes, forgot to say goodbye.
Goodbye.